By taking control of your cash flow, you'll have peace of mind knowing that you can pay yourself, pay your team, and handle any financial curveballs that come your way. Hello, and welcome back to the Blissful Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Christina Hall, and I'm so grateful you're tuning in today. In 2019 and 2022, I baby-proofed my small business to not only run without me, but to thrive without me, allowing me to take 2 4-month maternity leaves to be with my babies. Now I'm on a mission to help you do the same. Now let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like your cash flow is just not adding up, no matter how much money your business brings in? If so, you're not alone. I used to think I had my cash flow management under control. After all, most months I could cover my expenses. But every so often, I found myself dipping into my personal savings to pay team members or cover bills. I was working so hard, yet when it came to paying myself, there was almost nothing left over. Can you relate to that? Working around the clock, yet still feeling like you're not getting paid for your efforts. It was frustrating, and honestly, it put a lot of pressure on my family. But here's the truth. There's so much responsibility and risk in running a business, and it's only worth it if you're actually making money. That's why today I'm going to share with you the mistakes I've made around cash flow and my current system for managing cash flow that ensures that I get paid each week, pay all my bills on time, and still have some profit left over to reinvest and grow my business. Let's start with a quick overview of profit versus cash flow, because understanding the difference is super important. Profit is the money left over after all your expenses are paid. It shows you how much your business is making overall. Cash flow, on the other hand, is the movement of money in and out of your business. It tells you whether you have enough money to pay your bills each month. Now, let's dive into some of the most common cash flow challenges, and I'll share how I overcame them in my own business. One of the biggest challenges early on in my business was inconsistent revenue. At Heart and Soul Music Academy, we used to have a very flexible cancellation policy. Sounds great, right? Well, not so much, and here's why. Students would take a lesson 1 week and then disappear for 3 weeks. It was not sustainable. I had so many expenses and I needed consistency for both my business and my team. So I switched to a membership model. Now, students choose a set day and time for their weekly lessons. And if they can't make it for some reason, their teacher records them a personalized recorded lesson that they can do on their own time. This change has made a huge difference. Our students get better results because their instruction is more consistent. Our revenue is consistent, and my teachers are happier because their income is consistent. Now, I want you to take a moment to reflect on your business. Does your revenue fluctuate month to month? If so, could you adjust something like your pricing model or policies to make it more predictable? Are there certain times of year when revenue drops off? This happens for us in our summer months. There's always a dip in the number of students enrolled in lessons. So what I do to navigate this seasonal dip is I set aside money throughout the year to cover my expenses during those busy months. So this is something you could do if your revenue drops at certain periods of time throughout the year. Another common cash flow issue is having to chase down payments. I used to spend so much time each month emailing clients and chasing after payments. It was stressful, and sometimes it would take months to get paid. We were still providing the service, I was paying all my team members and my bills on time, and yet I was suffering because the student was being irresponsible. When we switched to the membership model, we also switched to autopay. Now, every student is automatically charged on the 25th of the prior month. I chose the 25th because it gives us about a week to update card information if the payment doesn't go through. This happens to about 4 to 5% of our students each month, but with this buffer, we have ample time to collect all those payments by the first of the month. Now, because we are dealing with humans, I do recognize that issues may arise, and sometimes families need a little extra time to make a payment. And in those rare cases, I do everything I can to help those families. Now, take a moment to reflect on your business. Do you struggle with getting paid on time? If so, could you switch to auto pay or even switch to requesting payment in advance, especially if it's a service-based business? If this is an issue for you, look into how you can change your policies to make it so that you're getting money in advance and you're not having to chase down those payments. Now, let's say you're getting paid on time, but you still feel like you're running out of cash. Chances are you're simply spending too much. We all know how easy it is for expenses to pile up. There's rent, utilities, insurance, software subscriptions, credit card fees. The list goes on. Every month, I sit down and review my profit and loss statement to see where we can cut costs. And here are a few things I do on a regular basis to save money. I pay all our subscriptions annually to get a discount. I periodically call service providers and ask if they're offering any deals. I recently saved 75% on our QuickBooks subscription just by asking. I also will cancel programs we're no longer using and research more affordable alternatives. If you haven't reviewed your expenses in a while, I highly recommend taking a look. These small changes can make a big difference over time. A 1% cut in expenses can mean an additional 1% that can be allocated towards profit. Now, another cash flow issue are unexpected expenses, whether it's an emergency repair or needing to replace certain equipment. That's why I now set aside 2 months worth of operating expenses in a savings account. This is called Core Capital Target. This creates a cushion for those surprise costs. In order to figure out how much you should have set aside, take a look at your profit and loss statement from the last fiscal year and calculate your average monthly expenses. And then aim to set aside at least 2 months or 2 times that average monthly expense. This cushion will give you peace of mind if anything unexpected happens. And the last cash flow killer, taxes. Not that long ago, I was still paying all of my taxes from my personal savings. But now I set aside 10% of the money we collect each month specifically for taxes. Now, to calculate how much you should set aside each month, you can take a look at both your annual revenue and tax payments from the last fiscal year and figure out the percentage of your revenue you paid in taxes. This should give you an idea as to how much to set aside each month. This will save you so much stress when tax season rolls around. This really was such a game changer for me. Now that we've covered the common challenges, let me walk you through how I manage my cash flow each month using a variation of the Profit First method that Mike Michalowicz teaches in his book, Profit First. Instead of multiple accounts, which is what Mike teaches, I use just a savings account and a checking account, and then I track micro accounts in a spreadsheet. The reason for this is I don't like having to worry about keeping a minimum balance in each account or paying unnecessary fees. Now, I have a spreadsheet titled Finance Micro Accounts, which has a series of 6 tabs, including an overview, and then my 5 micro accounts: team wages, operating expenses, core capital target, taxes, and profit. And just a reminder, the core capital target is those 2 months of operating expenses that I mentioned earlier. On the Overview tab, I have a row for each month where I enter the total amount we collected in that month, along with the amounts allocated to the various accounts. I'm going to talk about that more shortly, but I just want to give you just kind of an overview. This spreadsheet is essentially the digital version of having an envelope for each of these various categories. Okay, and here is how my cash flow management system works. On the first Saturday of each month, I download my statement from the last month. I then label each deposit as money in, and I label each deduction as either operating expense or team wage expense. Then I calculate the totals for each of these categories. I then refer to my spreadsheet and I deduct the amounts spent on operating expenses from the operating expense micro account and the amount spent on team wages from the team wages tab or micro account. I then go to the overview tab and using the current balance of the two expense accounts plus the historical data, I allocate a certain amount of the money brought in over the last month to both operating expenses and team wages and update those tabs accordingly. Then with whatever is left over, I allocate a certain amount to taxes. Earlier I mentioned I allocate about 10% each month. A certain amount to core capital target if those funds are low, and a certain amount to profit. Once I have allocated 100% of the funds we brought in that month, then the total taxes, core capital target, and profit amounts are transferred to our savings account. Now, since I implemented this process, I now have the confidence that enough money is set aside to cover all of our expenses, including taxes. Plus, I have a cushion should an unexpected expense or issue arise. I can see if we are hitting our profit goals, and if we are not, then I know where I need to focus my attention moving forward. Now, when I first started this, I wasn't bringing in enough to fund all these micro accounts, but I started small, only setting aside 1% at first, and then over time, I was able to increase to 2%, and so on and so forth. Before I knew it, I had enough money set aside to cover my tax payments and then had completely funded our core capital target account. I truly believe knowledge is power, and just simply by doing this process each month, you will get a clearer picture of how financially healthy or unhealthy your business is. If there are issues, you can now begin coming up with solutions over time. By taking control of your cash flow, you'll have peace of mind knowing that you can pay yourself, pay your team, and handle any financial curveballs that come your way. Whether you're planning for maternity leave or just want more stability in your business, this system can help you get there. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired and empowered you to take control of your finances. If you have any questions or want to share your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. Simply DM me on Instagram at the Blissful Mompreneur. And if you're pregnant and getting ready for maternity leave, I've created a free 6-step maternity leave planning guide. It covers everything from how much time to take off to how to create a financial plan. Just head over to Instagram and DM me the word plan, and I'll send it to you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a fellow mompreneur who might benefit from this advice. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and leave a comment below letting me know your biggest takeaway. It helps me reach more amazing women just like you. Thank you again for being here, and until next time, keep pursuing your bliss.